Hey everybody, Jim here with another video for you. This is Shocktober, Volume 6, Ranking the Nightmare on Elm Street films. But before we begin, at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please consider giving me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, but most importantly, please leave comments below. Let me know how you feel about the films in this series are and what your rankings would be. Now, the majority of the Elm Street films that I own come in this box set on DVD. This was an old New Line Platinum Series DVD collection, and it's still the best box set that they ever did for the Nightmare on Elm Street films. It even comes with a bunch of extras here, the Nightmare Series Encyclopedia, a book, and even 3D glasses to go with Freddy's Dead. I wish to God Scream Factory or Arrow or Vinegar Syndrome or someone would release a proper Blu-ray, 4K, whatever, box set of these films, because what's out there now just isn't worth it. And I love these films. So that's where most of these films come from, is that box set. Now, there's a total of 9 actual Freddy Krueger properties, theatrical films. The 7 original films, Freddy vs. Jason, and the remake. I do not own the reboot remake. There's several reasons for this, but first and foremost, it's because I hate that movie. It's a piece of crap. I will never watch it again. So if I did own it, it would definitely be last on this list. So we're only going to rank actually 8 of the 9 films. And I also want to stress, regardless of what the rankings are, I like all these movies to a certain degree. Okay? The last bottom couple, I don't really like the movie, but there are moments in the movies that I do like. So without further ado, we're going to start with number 8. We're going to work our way down to number 1. And again, I want to stress this is all about personal preference. It has nothing to do with quality of film. So, number 8 on our list is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. This was released in 3D. Back in the 80s, the early 90s. This one is directed by Rachel Talalay, and it stars Robert Englund, of course, but it also had special appearances from Johnny Depp, Roseanne Barr, and Tom Arnold. It also starred Yaphet Kotto as well. Again, not a very good movie at all. I remember seeing this theatrically and wondering, what the hell am I watching? Especially when the kid gets turned into a video game character like Mario. It's really cheesy. It's really bad. I do really like the cameo from Johnny Depp, though. That still makes me laugh every time I see it. But yeah, Freddy's Dead, it's a pretty weak movie. Not far behind, though. Number 7 in our rankings is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. This one is directed by Stephen Hopkins. This one came out in 1989, the same year as Jason Takes Manhattan. That was a really rough year for franchise horror films. Again, I don't absolutely hate this movie. I do enjoy it more than Freddy's Dead a little bit. But again, I don't really like this movie. I think the plot is kind of a mess, and quite honestly, the kills aren't all that great. I like the first kill with the guy on the motorcycle. I think that's kind of cool. But this movie's just pretty weak. Number 6 is Freddy vs. Jason. Again, starring Robert Englund. And this one has, who the hell plays Jason in this one? I don't even remember. Ken Kersinger. It also stars Jason Ritter and a couple other people. Who cares? Ronnie Yu directed this movie. Now, again, this was one of those movies that the fans were waiting years for. This movie was in developmental hell forever. Half the reason why we got Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X was because they were still trying to get this movie made, and they needed to keep the Jason properties going in order to hold on to the rights from Paramount. And quite honestly, when I saw this theatrically, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was stupid, but I really enjoyed it. But upon repeated viewings, I realized, no, this movie really is pretty stupid. It still has some really cool moments, but unfortunately, most of the really cool moments in this movie belong to Jason, not Freddy. Okay, we are at the top 5. Number 5 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Directed by Rennie Harlan. And again, I still don't love this movie, but I do like it. And there's some really cool stuff in this movie, especially the cockroach kill still holds up. The problem with this movie is this is really where Freddy turned into a comedian full-fledged. It started with the Dream Warriors, but it really kicks into high gear on this one. And from this point on, Freddy Krueger is just not scary. And that's half the problem. I mean, he basically became a stand-up comedian who killed people. But again, there still are moments in this movie that I do like. And again, I don't hate this movie. I don't hate any of these movies, except for that piece of shit remake. Number 4. Now we're getting into the stuff that I actually really, really like. Number 4 is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Again, starring our buddy Robert Englund, but they brought back Heather Langenkamp for this one, and John Saxon, and just about everybody who was involved with the original film, including Wes Craven himself and Robert Shea, who ran New Line. This is probably the most divisive Freddy movie of them all. Either you love this movie or you don't like it. And this was really one of the first meta horror movies. I think this is kind of what, in a weird way, inspired Wes Craven to direct Scream, because of the meta-ness involved with that. But the thing that I like about this movie, and the reason why it's so high on the list, is because Freddy Krueger's scary in this one again. He ain't cracking jokes. It's a much darker, gnarlier version of Freddy. It's probably the darkest version of Freddy since the original film. And that's the reason why I enjoy this movie so much. Top 3. Number 3 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. This one's directed by Jack Shoulder. And again, starring our buddy Robert Englund. But this one co-stars Mark Patton and Robert Russler. Now, if you would have asked me 20 years ago even about my rankings of this films, this one would actually be further down the list, okay? But this movie has actually grown on me quite a bit through the years. I remember seeing it theatrically and wondering what the hell is going on here. And that was even without the, pardon the expression, homosexual overtones. I knew something was up, but I didn't really register how much, okay? But that's not the reason why this movie's gone up through the ratings or anything. It's not like I'm extra woke or anything like that. It's just, again, Freddy is scary in this movie. He's still creepy as hell. Now, this movie doesn't follow any of the rules in the other movies, okay? And that was part of the reason why I didn't enjoy it for years. But upon repeated viewings, I got to admit, this one is still pretty damn creepy in spots. So that is why number 3 goes to Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Number 2, and I think everybody knows what the next 2 will be. But number 2 is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. Directed by Chuck Russell. And again, starring our buddy Robert Englund. Heather Langenkamp came back for this one. So did John Saxon. But this one also stars Patricia Arquette and Lawrence Fishburne, of all people. Very early in their careers. Not so much Fishburne, but definitely Patricia Arquette. This movie's awesome. It really is. It's by far the best of the sequels. And a lot of people would actually even put this number 1 on their list overall. I won't. We'll get to that in a minute. But again, this movie, yes, this is really where Freddy starts doing the stand-up shit, you know, cracking one-liners and this and that, but it's not overkill yet. And the characters are all fun in this movie, and the kills are fun. And it's just a all-around great movie. I love Dream Warriors. I don't like the theme song from Dokken. I was a huge Dokken fan back in the day, and I've never liked that damn song. But number 1, to no one's surprise, is the original Nightmare on Elm Street, directed by Wes Craven, and starring, once again, Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, and introducing Johnny Depp. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, is number 1 on this list. It's not even close. As much as I love Dream Warriors, again, this is a far superior film. It's scarier. It's better well written. It's just an incredible film. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say that the original Nightmare on Elm Street is really the last film I ever saw that actually frightened me. I've been, I've been a victim of jump scares and this and that, and other movies have creeped me out through the years. But the original time seeing A Nightmare on Elm Street truly terrified me. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again real quickly. I was working at the McHenry Theater as a usher / projectionist in 1984. I was 17 when this movie came out. And part of the job was changing movies over on Thursday nights because movies would always come out on Fridays. And we got this movie the day it came out because our movie theater, as small as it was, we always got horror movies when they came out. And Thursday night, the night before this movie premiered, I put the reels together like I normally would, and waited until the place closed and the manager left, and I snuck back in and I watched this film in an empty theater after hours by myself. And I was terrified. And just talking about it now, 40 years later, I'm getting goosebumps because it was, without a doubt, the most frightening experience I ever had in a movie theater. But it's also one of the most satisfying. I will remember that experience to the day I die. That reason and a multitude of other reasons is why this movie is number one. Towards the end of the month, I'm going to do a top 25 horror movies from my collection. Don't be surprised if this movie is not placed very high on the list. So to recap, number one is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Number two is Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. 3 is Freddy's Revenge. 4 is New Nightmare. 5 is Dream Master. If I can grab this one. 6 is Freddy vs. Jason. 7 is The Dream Child. And 8 is The Final Nightmare. And if I own that piece of crap remake, that would definitely be number 9. As a matter of fact, that would be number 12 on a list of 9. So that's it for this ranking. Now, before we end here, I just want to throw out a quick shout out to the live show that me and my good friends Sean and Kenny will be doing. We do it every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. The next episode will be Tuesday, October 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be streaming live on Sean's channel, which is at MovieAssault. The name of the actual podcast is Talking Movies with Sean, Kenny, and Jim. And this week we will be talking horror movies with an emphasis on independent horror movies. And we are excited to welcome 2 guests this week. We have Bryan from the Horror Punk, and we have Dan from Mr. Dan in Horror. I'm going to leave all the links in the description. It would mean the world to me if you have a chance to please stop by and say hello and maybe ask us some questions. Or at the very least, check out the replay. And again, I will be leaving the links to all those channels in the description below. I also want to give one more quick shout out to my good friend Eddie at Movie Collector 623. He is just a couple of subscribers short of hitting 1,000, and it would mean the world to me if you went over there, if you haven't already done so. Check out his channel and hit that subscribe button. Let's get Eddie over 1,000. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. If you did, again, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe. Most importantly, leave comments below, and we'll catch you on the next one.